Billy Mitchell, the greatest gamer to ever live, has won his lawsuit with Karl Jobst. He tweets out, Billy Mitchell always has a plan. And PPP of Casino replies, You are the king of gaming. Never let these bastards get you down. Huge W, King. All hail, suffer Jobst. Karl tweets out, I lost. The judge found Billy to be a credible witness and believed his entire testimony. From that point on, unfortunately, there was really nothing that could have saved me. I will now obviously consider my options. I know many of you will be upset with this, and I am sorry for that. Thank you again for all the support I have received, and I will endeavor to work as hard as I can to repay all that you are owed. Here I have a summary of the judgment, just about a page and a half. Today, the District Court of Queensland ordered that Queensland YouTuber Karl Jobst pay American arcade gamer Billy Mitchell damages for defamation totaling $350,000 plus interest, which, depending on the parties' further submissions, may amount to $40,000. This is in Australian dollars, not USD. The plaintiff, William Mitchell III, commonly known as Billy Mitchell, has been well known among adherents of video and arcade gaming in many countries, including Australia. Since 1982, he has held world records as a player of the arcade games Donkey Kong and Pac-Man, which were recognized by Guinness World Records and Twin Galaxies. In 2017, Mr. Mitchell was accused of having cheated in achieving his Donkey Kong world records by using computer emulation software instead of original arcade hardware. Twin Galaxies investigated the allegation, and in April 2018, it announced that it had concluded that two of Mr. Mitchell's world record scores were not produced by direct feed output of an original unmodified Donkey Kong arcade printed circuit board. As a consequence of which, it has decided to remove all of Mr. Mitchell's scores and to ban him from participating in its competitive leaderboards. Guinness World Records then announced that as a consequence of Twin Galaxies' decision, it had disqualified Mr. Mitchell as the holder of all his records, Donkey Kong and Pac-Man. Benjamin Smith, known online as Apollo Legend, published videos about gaming on YouTube, including a number in which he accused Mr. Mitchell of cheating at Donkey Kong. Mr. Mitchell sued him for defamation, and they settled that action in August 2020. Apollo Legend committed suicide in December 2020. And this guy, Apollo Legend, is actually very key to this whole lawsuit. A lot of people, myself included, were under the impression that this was about Karl Jobst's accusations of Billy Mitchell cheating, but that's not the case. A lot of it was about this Apollo Legend guy. The defendant, Karl Jobst, regularly publishes videos on YouTube. In May 2021, he published a video about Mr. Mitchell and another video gamer entitled The Biggest Conman in Video Game History, Strike Again. He accused Mr. Mitchell of cheating and pursuing unmeritorious litigation against people who accused him of cheating. He also linked Apollo Legend's suicide to stress arising from his settlement with Mr. Mitchell, wrongly asserting that Apollo Legend had had to pay Mr. Mitchell a large sum of money. Mr. Mitchell sued Jobst for defamation in the District Court of Queensland, claiming $400K in general damages and $50K in aggravated damages. Judge Ken Barlow KC found that the video made 5 defamatory imputations about Mr. Mitchell, particularly that he had required Apollo Legend to pay him a large sum of money, which was the cause of or had contributed to Apollo Legend's decision to commit suicide, and that Mr. Mitchell had hounded Apollo Legend to death. Mr. Jobst denied that the imputations alleged by Mr. Mitchell were made in the video. He also defended the claim on a number of other grounds. He alleged that Mr. Mitchell had a pre-existing bad reputation because he had been publicly exposed as a cheat and had been banned from submitting scores to Twin Galaxies. He ostracized people who challenged his records, and he ran frivolous lawsuits against people who called him a cheat. He also asserted that Mr. Mitchell had planned a fraudulent video in an attempt to prove that he had not cheated, and he had callously expressed joy when he thought Apollo Legend had died on an earlier occasion. Mr. Jobst asserted that he had such a bad reputation that anything Mr. Jobst said in the video did not damage his reputation further. So this is pretty much the center of this lawsuit, is that Karl made it seem that Billy Mitchell played a key role in Apollo Legends deciding to end his life. Judge Barlow KC found that Mr. Mitchell did have a reputation as a cheat, as having been banned by Twin Galaxies and for suing people who alleged he was a cheat. His Honor also found that he had callously expressed joy on an earlier occasion when he heard that Apollo Legend may have died, although he had not. But Judge Barlow found that he had not planned a fraudulent video. Notwithstanding these findings, His Honor held that the defamatory imputations made by Mr. Jobst had severely damaged Mr. Mitchell's reputation and had caused him considerable distress. To be clear, the court was not called on to decide, nor did His Honor decide, whether Mr. Mitchell had in fact cheated in gaining his world record scores. So the cheating has nothing to do with this case at all. The court awarded Mr. Mitchell damages for non-economic loss of $300,000. The court also found that Mr. Jobst's conduct after publishing the video was unjustifiable and caused additional hurt to Mr. Mitchell and harm to his reputation. This conduct included making the original imputations recklessly and without checking their truth, publishing the video twice, mocking Mr. Mitchell's complaint about the video and his legal action, failing to apologize and to withdraw the allegations, persisting in his contention that Mr. Mitchell's actions against Apollo Legend had contributed to his decision to commit suicide, and having clear malice towards Mr. Mitchell, including trying to use his defense of the litigation to punish and destroy him. Though apparently, along the way, Karl has said that Billy actually made this bigger than it ever had to be by pushing back and saying that Karl had lied about him. He made this a way bigger story. And the judge is saying, no, not having that. Because of this conduct, the court awarded Mr. Mitchell an additional $50,000 in aggravated damages. The court also ordered, subject to any submissions to the contrary, that Mr. Jobst pay interest on the damages from the date of publication to the date of judgment and pay Mr. Mitchell's costs of the proceeding. So up here it has the 350 plus interest and the additional fees of $40,000, plus he has to pay his legal fees, or he more than likely will have to pay Billy Mitchell's legal fees. So I mean he's looking at upwards of $500,000 Australian dollars that he's going to have to pay here. Oh, here's another tweet from Karl after losing. There are a lot of lies being spread that I falsely claimed Billy sued me because I said he cheated. I never claimed this. I only claimed it was relevant as part of my defense. I didn't openly discuss certain details for obvious reasons, but I was never trying to hide why I was being sued. In this video, I fully allow Billy to explain why he was suing me, and I specifically state that I chose not to go into much detail because it related to the ongoing lawsuit. Furthermore, I never asked for money when Billy originally sued me. It was only after he sent me a second lawsuit and a threat of a third lawsuit, which were completely unrelated, that I needed to crowdfund. So he started a GoFundMe or whatever, and I think he got like $200,000 or so from his fans wanting to help him out with this legal case. My total legal costs are well over $600K, so any money I received went to my lawyers. I did not intentionally try to deceive anyone or trick anyone just to defraud them or scam them out of money. So if Billy Mitchell's costs are similar to Karl Jobst's costs here, then, I mean, he's looking at $1 million in damages that he has to pay to Billy Mitchell, on top of what he already has to pay for his lawyers and stuff. But the criticism that I should have been more transparent is valid, and I'm sorry. Truthfully, I didn't want to repeat or mention any claims regarding Apollo Legend because it may have jeopardized my defense. So here, he is at the very least admitting that he was not super transparent about what he was being sued for, and he's giving some ground to the people who are saying, oh, I was under the impression that this was about Billy Mitchell cheating. And like I said, that's what I thought it was about. And Karl is admitting that he at least could have done better in making it clear what the case was about. I never intentionally lied regarding to Apollo Legend either. I relied on incorrect information from multiple sources. I retracted the statements once I confirmed it was inaccurate, but apparently it was not sufficient. At some point, of course, I will produce a video discussing everything, and I still believe the decision today was not the correct one. And we got Andy Worski, the other half of Kino Casino, down here saying, I wouldn't say people are lying. You were not clear about what you were being sued for. Far from all the videos I watched over the years and rewatched today, it seemed like you were being sued for bringing up the cheating. About 99% of the videos are about the cheating, and the Apollo stuff was a quick aside that wasn't even explained. This isn't a case of people lying, but you were not being clear about what the case was actually about. And I largely agree with what Andy's saying there. And Based News Media Network comes in and says, bro, just look at this comment. Karl Jobst was grifting hard on ruining this American hero's life. And here's a pinned comment from one of Karl's videos. Imagine threatening to sue someone because they accused you of cheating. That's a pinned comment on one of his videos. And Andy asks, bro, where is this? Based News Media Network says this was on an unrelated video about Civilization 6. So not on one of the Billy Mitchell videos, to be fair, but he was saying this sort of stuff that would lead people to believe the lawsuit was about Billy Mitchell cheating. And here's just some tweets that I found kind of showing that other people thought that this was about cheating and not Apollo Legend. Lonely Goomba says, I thought Karl Jobst was getting sued for accusing Billy Mitchell of cheating. That was absolutely the angle he went with in his videos. Now I'm finding out it's because he accused Billy of being responsible for the suicide of Apollo Legend. If that's true, I feel very misled. Well, no, that is why he lost. Here, Misharu Kotorin. Honestly, Karl Jobst deserves this L because he never gave the impression that the defamation lawsuit was primarily about Apollo Legend's suicide. In fact, his legal defense fund doesn't bring it up either. He misled the public and now they're paying for his F-up. Cone says, I thought the Karl Jobst versus Billy Mitchell case was about him cheating in Donkey Kong, not about libel over the implication that Billy specifically caused Apollo Legend to commit suicide. Every video he made about the lawsuit seemed like it was about the cheating. And one more, just read part of this, guys. He says, Karl was asking his fans for money to cover the cost of his lawsuit case. I believe it's between 300 to 600K or something like that. People gave Karl money to battle Billy Mitchell in court and lost. Now fans are finding out why he lost, and it wasn't because Billy Mitchell was trying to silence him for exposing his fraud score in Pac-Man and other methods of cheating. So fans are furious that they gave Karl money over a lawsuit that he was bound to lose. Fans thought the lawsuit was to help him battle Billy and his cheating scandal, in which he was trying to silence Karl, but that was far from the truth. And Billy Mitchell, I believe, has lost other cases where he's trying to sue people who said that he cheated. So if people know that Billy Mitchell has lost these lawsuits before, they're more likely to donate to Karl than if they knew that it was about this Apollo Legend stuff. Karl left that information out about what the case was actually about it and framed it as if Billy was trying to silence him. Billy already lost his other cases, and fans knew Billy was going to lose against Karl till now. So here is the judge talking about the case and delivering his verdict, or whatever the terminology is. I think I have this sped up to 2. Yeah, we'll go 1.25x. He talks pretty.
The plaintiff, William Mitchell III, commonly known as Billy Mitchell, lives in Florida, United States of America. He has been well known among adherents of video and arcade gaming in many countries, including Australia, since 1982. At an arcade and video gaming competition in November that year that took place in Ottumwa, Iowa, USA, playing an arcade game called Donkey Kong, Mr. Mitchell scored a world record 874,300 points and was the first person ever recorded as reaching the kill screen, that is, reaching the end of the game. At the time,
One of the best parts about these YouTube drama sorts of things going into court is hearing serious people like judges talk about this. Like, it's very funny to me to listen to a judge talk about Billy Mitchell's Donkey Kong and Pac-Man records.
He was 17 years of age. Mr. Mitchell went on to be recognized as having achieved a number of world records and world firsts in video and arcade gaming. They included achieving the first perfect score of 3,333,360 in another game called Pac-Man in 1999, setting a new world record and the first score of over 1 million points, the record being 1,047,200 points in Donkey Kong in June 2005, another Donkey Kong world record of 1,050,200 points in July 2007, and a third Donkey Kong world record of 1,062,800 points in July 2010. Those records were recognized by such bodies as Guinness World Records and Twin Galaxies, which is an American company that organizes gaming competitions and keeps a database of records and rankings across various gaming platforms. In 2017, Mr. Mitchell was accused of having cheated in achieving his Donkey Kong world records by allegedly using computer emulation software.
I mean, is that not just awesome to hear a judge say that?
Of records and rankings across various gaming platforms. In 2017, Mr. Mitchell was accused of having cheated in achieving his Donkey Kong world records by allegedly using computer emulation software instead of original arcade hardware. Twin Galaxies investigated the accusation, and in April 2018, it announced that it had concluded that 2 of Mr. Mitchell's world record scores were not produced by the direct feed output of an original, unmodified Donkey Kong arcade printed circuit board, or PCB. It was not able to determine whether the 3rd score was produced on original arcade gaming hardware or with the use of emulation software. As a consequence of its findings, it announced that it had decided to remove all of Mr. Mitchell's scores and to ban him from participating in its competitive leaderboards. The following day,
I mean, what a horrible affront to a true American patriot. Just stripping of him all of his records, even the ones they're not sure about. That is so mad.
Guinness World Records announced that as a consequence of Twin Galaxies' decision, it too had disqualified Mr. Mitchell as the holder of all his records, both in Donkey Kong and in Pac-Man. Mr. Mitchell commenced proceedings in the United States for defamation against Twin Galaxies and a number of others. One of those lawsuits was against a young man, Benjamin Smith, who was known online as Apollo Legend. I refer to him as Apollo Legend in my reasons. He published videos on YouTube about gaming, including a number in which he accused Mr. Mitchell of cheating, falsifying his Donkey Kong scores, and not using legitimate gaming hardware. Mr. Mitchell and Apollo Legend settled that proceeding on 22 August 2020. Their agreement relevantly provided that Apollo Legend would remove all of his YouTube videos and social media posts that referred to Mr. Mitchell. He would assign the copyright in those YouTube videos to Mr. Mitchell, and he would permanently cease producing any
Signing the copyright, I think that means any revenue that the videos get has to go to Billy Mitchell. I think that's what they're talking about there.
oral, written, or electronic documents or communications that in any way mentioned or referred to Mr. Mitchell or his family, apart from making an agreed statement in terms provided in the settlement agreement. Any breach by Apollo Legend of the last of these obligations would result in him being liable to Mr. Mitchell for $25,000 for each breach. Unless he committed such a breach, he did not have to pay Mr. Mitchell any money. Apollo Legend appears to have complied with that agreement. However, on 20 December 2020, he published a video on YouTube, referred to in this proceeding as his goodbye video, in which he told viewers that he was recording his final video. He said, "This is the end of my life," and he explained why. In that video, he did not mention Mr. Mitchell, nor the claim against him or the settlement agreement. Shortly after publishing it, he committed suicide. Defendant Karl Jobst.
So, obviously that's not proof. The fact that he doesn't mention Billy Mitchell in his goodbye video doesn't mean that it has nothing to do with it, but you have some good evidence if he's not really saying that anywhere, that Billy Mitchell was the reason that he decided that Apollo Legend decided to end his life.
Jobst lives in Queensland. He regularly publishes videos on YouTube, mostly about speedrunning, but also about video and arcade gaming world records and people who cheat in those games. He has over 1 million followers on his YouTube channel. On 26 May 2021, he published a video about Mr. Mitchell and another video gamer, Todd Rogers, entitled "The Biggest Conmen in Video Game History Strike Again." He accused Mr. Mitchell and Mr. Rogers of cheating and of pursuing unmeritorious litigation against people who had accused them of cheating. He also said the following about Mr. Mitchell, quote, "He also sued YouTuber Apollo Legend for $1 million. I haven't spoken about this publicly, but this lawsuit ultimately ended with Apollo giving in and settling with Mitchell. He was forced to remove all his videos about Mitchell's cheating and paid him a large sum of money. This left him deeply in debt, which required him to find extra work, but with his ongoing health issues, this was all too much of a burden, and he ultimately took his own life. Not that Billy Mitchell would ever care, though. In fact, when Billy Mitchell thought Apollo died earlier, he expressed joy."
I mean, that the framing in Carl's video is pretty crazy here. Yeah, he drove him to end his life, but not that Billy would ever care about that.
Billy Mitchell would ever care, though. In fact, when Billy Mitchell thought Apollo died earlier, he expressed joy at the thought. The lawsuit against Apollo was just as frivolous as the rest, and Apollo definitely would have won in court. But again, he was extremely ill and couldn't handle the ongoing stress. End quote. That video containing that passage was online for 10 days from 26 May 2021 to 4 June 2021, and for an additional 5 days from 9 June to 13 June 2021. In between
2020, that's crazy that this has been 4 years going.
those dates, and since 13 June 2021, the video has remained online, but it contains only the first 2 sentences and the last sentence of the passage that I have just read. While the video was first online in its full version, 2 relevant events occurred. First, on 3 June 2021, Mr. Mitchell published his own YouTube video in response to Mr. Jobst's video. He denied as lies the assertion that Apollo Legend had paid him any money as part of the settlement, or that he had had any involvement with Apollo Legend that had led him to commit suicide. He asserted that Mr. Jobst had effectively accused him of murder. He ended the video by saying, quote,
Which, I mean, yeah, I kind of agree with that, the way it's framed. You know, probably not murder, but contributing, leading to ending his life.
He asserted that Mr Jobst had effectively accused him of murder. He ended the video by saying, quote, "I plan to respond the way that everybody anticipates for me to respond. And Karl, expect me," end quote. The second relevant event is that a mutual acquaintance of Mr Mitchell and Mr Jobst, known online as Keemstar, contacted Mr Jobst at...
I mean, how great is that? Keemstar. This guy is talking about Keemstar in court.
of Mr Mitchell and Mr Jobst, known online as Keemstar, contacted Mr Jobst at Mr Mitchell's request and told him that it was not true that Apollo Legend had paid Mr Mitchell any money. Mr Jobst agreed to take down that part of the video while he investigated that issue further. While not taking it all down, he only left up the first...
So the fact that he said he takes it down and says he has to investigate it further, to me that says that he probably doesn't have any, or didn't have any real evidence for his claim there. Otherwise, wouldn't that be the first thing that you'd say? Like, oh, well, how do you explain X, Y, and Z then if you had nothing to do?
Part of the video while he investigated that issue further. While not taking it all down, he only left up the first and last sentences of the passage that I have read. He then emailed Apollo Legend's brother to ask him whether Apollo Legend had to pay any money to Mr Mitchell as part of the settlement. Mr Mitchell's lawyers then served a concerns notice on Mr Jobst, asserting that he had defamed Mr Mitchell. In response, Mr Jobst posted that letter on Twitter, claiming it to be very exciting and that any action would be an amazing experience. He then...
That's crazy. A lot of YouTubers do that. And even if you are like guaranteed to win it, from everything I've heard, it just absolutely sucks to get wrapped up in a court case. Like, I don't think how, I don't see how it could be worth it, memes or whatever, in really any situation.
Twitter, claiming it to be very exciting and that any action would be an amazing experience. He then reinstated the original version of the video on his YouTube channel. It was not until 13 June 2021 that Apollo Legend's brother informed Mr Jobst that Apollo Legend had not paid any money to Mr Mitchell. Mr Jobst then altered the video again to remove all except the first two and the last sentences. That version has remained on his YouTube channel since then. The video containing all of the offending passage was downloaded.
And you got to think, yeah, so he's removing the more inaccurate parts, but most people see the video in like the first 2 days that it's up. I would think Karl's videos have a little bit more longevity than the average YouTube video, because then a lot of them aren't like super current events. Some are more retrospective, but this one is kind of current event related, and I still think he's going to get the bulk of his views in the first week or so. So most people are not going to see the correction. They're going to see the original.
And has remained on his YouTube channel since then. The video containing all of the offending passage was downloaded in the periods that it was online by over 500,000 people, including over 20,000.
They say downloaded here. Apparently that just means views. I'm not much of a tech person, but the way I had is that basically that is what's happening when you watch a video, which I mean, it kind of makes sense once I heard it. It's like, oh, yeah, I guess that seems kind of obvious. But as you're watching a video, you're downloading it from YouTube servers. It's just not like permanently stored in a .mp4 file on your computer or whatever.
In Australia. Since then, over 8,000 comments have been made on the video, including at least 396 that, it may be said, accused Mr Mitchell of causing Apollo Legend to commit suicide and even called him a murderer, evil, and a scumbag. Similar comments have also been made on videos by...
So, it said like 400 people that watched that video were under the impression that Billy Mitchell led to Apollo Legend ending his life. And I would assume, yeah, no, the way he said it, it's just there were that many comments saying that. Plus, you got to think how many people liked those comments too, who shared that sentiment.
And even called him a murderer, evil, and a scumbag. Similar comments have also been made on videos by other publishers on YouTube or other online media. The most recent that has been brought to my attention having been made in early 2024. In this action, Mr Mitchell sues Mr Jobst for defamation, claiming $400,000 in general damages and $50,000 in aggravated damages. Mr Mitchell contends that the video, particularly the passage that I have read, made 5 defamatory imputations about him. Those imputations were, first, Mr Mitchell had required Apollo Legend to pay him a large amount of money to settle Mr Mitchell's defamation claim against him, which caused Apollo Legend to go into considerable debt and to take on extra work to survive. Secondly, a major contributing factor in Apollo Legend's decision to take his own life was Mr Mitchell's requirement that Apollo Legend pay him a large sum of money to settle the defamation claim. Third, Mr Mitchell had hounded Apollo Legend to death. Fourth, Mr Mitchell was the main cause, or alternatively a cause, of Apollo Legend taking his own life. And fifth, Mr Mitchell's conduct was a contributing factor in Apollo Legend taking his own life. Mr Jobst denied that the imputations alleged by Mr Mitchell were made in the video. I have found that the video made each of those defamatory imputations. Mr Jobst also defended the...
So the judge says, yeah, no, Carl, you definitely, at the very least, implied that Billy Mitchell heavily contributed to Apollo Legends ending his life.
video. I have found that the video made each of those defamatory imputations. Mr Jobst also defended the claim on a number of other grounds. First, he alleged that Mr Mitchell had a pre-existing bad reputation that meant that any of the defamatory imputations alleged would not have harmed him. That reputation, Mr Jobst alleged, was threefold. First, Mr Mitchell had cheated to gain recognition as the highest or one of the highest scorers in Donkey Kong. Secondly, he had used litigation processes to coerce others to recognize him as a world record holder in Donkey Kong and to refrain from identifying him as a person who had been found to have cheated at video arcade games. And third, that he would ostracize anyone he considered a threat to his world records in Donkey Kong. As to his...
So part of Carl's defense here is saying that, look, Billy Mitchell's reputation is already sullied. If you want to say that I disparaged him or said anything that would harm his reputation, it's already been sufficiently ruined. You know, I can't really make a significant difference.
His alleged pre-existing bad reputation, I have found that Mr Mitchell did have a reputation as a cheat in Donkey Kong and a reputation for suing people who alleged that he was a cheat. I have found that he did not have a reputation for ostracizing anyone he considered a threat to his achievements.
So the judge says, yes, he does have a reputation for being litigious and being a cheater, but he does not have a reputation for contributing to the Apollo Legend.
I have found that he did not have a reputation for ostracizing anyone he considered a threat to his achievements. Mr Judd's other principal defense was that the video made 5 other defamatory imputations, each of which was substantially true, and as a result of which, the imputations about which Mr Mitchell complains did not cause any greater harm to him or his reputation. Those imputations, which are referred to in defamation law in Queensland as contextual imputations, were, first, Mr Mitchell was publicly exposed as having cheated to achieve his record scores in Donkey Kong. Second, Mr Mitchell was banned from submitting scores to Twin Galaxies for cheating. Third, Mr Mitchell had planned to create a video that he could use fraudulently as evidence that he had achieved the score of 1,062,800 in Donkey Kong. Fourth, Mr Mitchell had callously expressed joy at the thought of Apollo Legend's death. And fifth, Mr Mitchell used litigation to force third parties to recognize his achievements in video gaming. I have found that all of those contextual imputations were made in the video. All but one of them were substantially true. It was not true that he had planned to produce a fraudulent video. To be clear, I was not required to decide, nor did I decide, whether Mr Mitchell had in fact cheated in gaining any of his world record scores. Mr Jobst did not attempt to prove that that finding by Twin Galaxies was correct. Notwithstanding these findings, I have concluded that the defamatory imputations made by Mr Jobst, that are the subject of Mr Mitchell's claim, have caused substantial additional damage to Mr Mitchell's reputation and have caused him considerable additional distress. Therefore, Mr Jobst is liable to pay damages to Mr Mitchell for those defamatory imputations. I shall come shortly to the amount of those damages. Mr Mitchell also asserted that Mr Jobst's conduct in publishing the video, and after doing so, was unjustifiable and caused additional personal hurt to Mr Mitchell and harm to his reputation, which justifies the court awarding additional damages known as aggravated damages. This conduct, alleged by Mr Mitchell, included, first, making the allegations recklessly and without checking their truth. Secondly, publishing the video twice.
Yeah, to me that sounds about right. As like was mentioned earlier, when Billy Mitchell reached out to Keemstar and Keemstar was like, hey, this Apollo Legend isn't really true. Carl's like, oh, let me take that part out of the video and I'll have to look into it more. So it seems like he didn't have much of anything to substantiate that claim.
First, making the allegations recklessly and without checking their truth. Secondly, publishing the video twice. Thirdly, holding malice and pursuing a vendetta against Mr Mitchell. Fourthly, mocking Mr Mitchell's complaint about the video and his legal action. Fifthly, persisting in his contention that Mr Mitchell's action against Apollo Legend had contributed to his decision to commit suicide. And sixthly, failing to apologize and to withdraw the allegation. I have found that Mr Jobst was reckless in making the allegations. His assertions were based on a fallacy, namely that Apollo Legend had paid Mr Mitchell a large sum of money. That was simply wrong, and he had no reasonable basis for asserting it. Yet even after finding out the truth, he has continued to assert that the settlement had a negative financial impact on Apollo Legend, and that he still believes that the settlement was a contributing factor to his decision to commit suicide. Mr. Jobst was also reckless and vindictive in publishing the full video twice. At the time he republished it, he had been told by Mr. Mitchell via his response video, by their mutual acquaintance Keemstar, and by Mr. Mitchell's lawyers that what he had said about the payment was not true. He told Keemstar that he would not republish that part of the video unless he received concrete evidence that it was true. But by the time he republished it, he had not heard from Apollo Legend's brother, whom he had asked for information about the settlement, so he did not know any more than he had earlier, but he nevertheless decided to republish the entire video regardless. In his evidence, he said that...
So he pretty much there doubled down on it. He was told that it wasn't true, couldn't find anything to substantiate his claim, didn't get a response from Apollo Legend's brother, and just republished that claim anyway.
Yeah, but he nevertheless decided to republish the entire video regardless. In his evidence, he said that he did this because he thought Mr. Mitchell would sue him anyway. His attitude appears to have been, well, if I'm going to be sued, I may as well go for broke and damn the consequences. It was reckless and showed an absolute disregard for the truth or for the effect of his video on Mr. Mitchell and his reputation. On 29 July 2021, that is about 6 weeks after he finally edited the video and took out the offending passage, Mr. Jobst published a video in which he retracted his statement that Apollo Legend had paid Mr. Mitchell money, and he apologized to his viewers for having given them incorrect information. At the trial, he relied on that video as being evidence of his bona fides and as reducing any harm caused to Mr. Mitchell by his original video.
So you notice he says he apologized to his viewers, but no mention of an apology to Billy there.
Evidence of his bona fides and as reducing any harm caused to Mr. Mitchell by his original video. However, that video did not retract the imputations at all. It simply retracted the statement that Apollo Legend had paid Mr. Mitchell a large sum of money. Mr. Jobst did not apologize to Mr. Mitchell in any way, rather apologizing to his viewers for having made an incorrect statement in the offending video. Also, this retraction video was, in total, a little over 30 minutes long. For the first 28 minutes and 24 seconds, it had nothing to do with arcade gaming, cheating, or Mr. Mitchell. It was about a particular type of speedrunning. It then went blank for a few seconds before it returned with Mr. Jobst's alleged retraction statement, which itself lasted only about...
So he buried it 28.5 minutes into a 30-minute video, this retraction.
Seconds before it returned with Mr. Jobst's alleged retraction statement, which itself lasted only about 45 seconds. Even then, he wrongly said that Mr. Mitchell had not tried to contact him to clear up the error, and he insinuated that he still believed that Mr. Mitchell was responsible for Apollo Legend's decision. Finally, Mr. Jobst's conduct of this litigation, together with his additional online comments about it, were aggravating features of his conduct. He seems to see himself in defending this claim as a crusader against Mr. Mitchell. He is the last of the defendants who have been sued by Mr. Mitchell, and the only one, apart from Mr. Race, who has not backed down. Even in February 2024, as this action was progressing toward trial, he said in an online interview, quote, "Billy Mitchell needs to be destroyed in court. These people need to be punished in a big way before they stop. They need to get taught a lesson. So I am now the last chance. I am the last chance the public has."
I would think that doesn't really play well with a judge, especially when they find you to be wrong, to say that this person who I've wronged needs to be destroyed. Probably not a great play.
They need to get taught a lesson. So I am now the last chance. I am the last chance the public has to punish Billy. And also, the last person on YouTube you want to lose to is me. You know there's going to be 100 vids rubbing it in. I will never let Billy forget this, assuming I win. I've got to win first, but man.
And then he's saying, and if I do win, I'm going to rub it in. I'm going to be a very sore winner. I can understand the sentiment. Once you're wrapped up into these legal proceedings, like maybe play it a little bit more tight-lipped. Just really shot himself in the foot with these statements.
Vids rubbing it in. I will never let Billy forget this, assuming I win. I've got to win first, but man, if I win, oh boy, I'm not going to be a good winner. End quote. Mr. Jobst clearly intended to be the knight who slew the Mitchell dragon. Unfortunately for him, his lance was not as strong as he believed it to be, and it has broken in the contest. I have found that all of this conduct has caused Mr. Mitchell additional personal harm and additional harm to his reputation. It was severely aggravating conduct that merits an award of aggravated damages. Again, I will come shortly to the amount of aggravated damages that I will award. I was asked by each party to make adverse findings about the truthfulness of the other party's witnesses and the reliability or otherwise of their evidence. In my full reasons, I have given detailed consideration to those submissions. I don't propose to reprise that discussion and my conclusions now. Having made these findings, I consider that Mr Mitchell is entitled to an award of damages against Mr Jobst. I have considered other comparative cases in order to help me to decide the appropriate amount. Under the Defamation Act, of course,
What kind of cases do you have to compare this to? I guess probably just other general defamation cases. Doesn't necessarily need to be video game related. I like the idea of him researching other video game cases so that he could figure out how much Carl has to pay Billy.
other comparative cases in order to help me to decide the appropriate amount. Under the Defamation Act of Queensland, the maximum amount of damages for non-economic loss, that is, general damages, not including any aggravated damages, is currently $478,500. That amount can only be awarded in the most serious case. In addition, though, in appropriate cases, additional aggravated damages can be awarded, and there is no statutory limit on aggravated damages. Mr Jobst contended that for a number of reasons, any damages I award should be minimal, or at least reduced, due to two mitigating factors. One of those factors was that he published the so-called Retraction video. For the reasons I've already mentioned about that video, I do not consider that it had any mitigatory effect. Rather, publishing the Retraction, at the time and in the manner he did, was an aggravating feature of his conduct. He did not publish...
No, Carl, I'm not giving you any credit for burying your retraction 28.5 minutes into a 30-minute video, spending 45 seconds on it. In fact, I'm considering that an aggravating circumstance. That makes it worse for you.
The Retraction, at the time and in the manner he did, was an aggravating feature of his conduct. He did not publish it in a way that would draw it to the attention of the original audience, but instead essentially hid it from view. And of course, he did not retract any of the imputations against Mr Mitchell, nor apologise to him. The second...
It seems like this judge, he's aware of how a lot of these YouTubers like to do their apologies, upload it to the second channel, put it at the end of an unrelated video, that sort of stuff. He's not down with that. He's not down with the typical YouTube apology.
And of course, he did not retract any of the imputations against Mr Mitchell, nor apologise to him. The second reason he gave for mitigation of damages was that Mr Mitchell, he said, has contributed substantially to the harm he has suffered because he put the offending part of Mr Jobs' video into his response video, saying, quote, "For those of you who haven't seen it, here's the clip," end quote. Mr Mitchell's video showing that clip has remained online ever since. It has been downloaded at least 155,000 times. As I say in my reasons, this submission might be described as suggesting that Mr Mitchell called in an airstrike on his own position. I disagree, both by making the response video and by bringing this proceeding against Mr Jobst. Far from calling in an airstrike on his own position, it was necessary for Mr Mitchell and reasonable for Mr Mitchell to identify the enemy's position clearly in order to call in an airstrike on it. That is what...
Yeah, I just think on its face, that's a stupid defense to say, oh, well, it wouldn't be as big of a deal if you just shut your mouth about it. So, well, a person who's being lied about shouldn't be obligated to just not talk about the lies because they'll draw more attention to it. Like, sure, maybe in certain circumstances that's the smart play or whatever, but I mean, you shouldn't be obligated to do that, and it definitely shouldn't be held against you in a court.
To identify the enemy's position clearly in order to call in an airstrike on it. That is what he has done. He made clear in his response video that he denied the imputations made by Mr Jobst and that what Mr Jobst had said was false. His conduct in publishing this video was reasonable and it does not justify any reduction in the amount of damages. Factors particularly relevant in determining the appropriate amount of damages include the number and seriousness of the defamatory imputations, the extent of their publication, the effects they have had on the plaintiff personally and on his reputation, and what is known as the Grapevine effect. The Grapevine effect is the likelihood that the defamatory imputations have been and will be repeated to other people over time, and they may even surface again after this judgment. The Grapevine effect arises particularly in cases of defamatory imputations made on social media or other internet sites, including YouTube. In this case, there is ample evidence of the extent of the Grapevine effect. It has been very extensive. The evidence is the number of comments on Mr Jobs' video and also comments made on another online personality's videos about Mr Mitchell, which even recently included assertions that Mr Mitchell had caused or contributed to Apollo Legend's suicide. Coming to the...
Right, saying, even if Carl were to retract this stuff and take it back, it's kind of too late because it's permeated the internet and lots of people think this, and they're not going to hear all the updates and realize that, oh, that's not really true. So it's going to be a thing that people say about Billy Mitchell in perpetuity.
The amount of damages that I will award Mr. Mitchell seeks $400,000 in general damages, that is, damages for non-economic loss, as it is described in the Defamation Act. In my view, that is too high, being too close to the maximum permissible amount. This is not one of the most serious cases, although it is at the higher end, especially given the most damaging imputation that Mr. Mitchell hounded Apollo Legend to death and the extent of publication. Mr. Mitchell's aggravating conduct has been serious and ongoing, including in his evidence at trial and in his publications about this litigation. It merits substantial aggravated damages, and Mr. Mitchell asked for $50,000 in aggravated damages. I have concluded that there should be judgment for Mr. Mitchell in the sum of $300,000 for non-economic loss and $50,000 in aggravated damages. As I say in my reasons, he may well have been justified in being ordered to pay more than $50,000 in aggravated damages, but that is the amount sought by Mr. Mitchell, and that is the amount I shall award. In addition,
So he's kind of saying, Billy, if you would have asked for more, you probably could have gotten more.
in aggravated damages, but that is the amount sought by Mr. Mitchell, and that is the amount I shall award. In addition, Mr. Jobst should pay interest on those amounts. Unless I receive submissions for some other order as to interest, it seems to me, from other cases, that the appropriate rate and period of interest will be 3% per annum from the first date of publication to today. That amounts to a total of $40,446.58.
Pretty fair interest rate these days, 3%. That's barely more than my student loans were.
To today. That amounts to a total of $40,446.58. Finally, ordinarily an unsuccessful party is ordered to pay the successful party's costs of the proceeding. At present, I see no reason why I should not make such an order against Mr. Jobst. However, I shall give the parties an opportunity to seek an alternative costs order, either now or by written submissions to be provided within 14 days.
Oh yeah, there again, he's saying Carl's going to have to pay Billy's legal fees unless he can present a reason why he shouldn't have to.
Alternative costs order, either now or by written submissions to be provided within 14 days, but preferably now. The judgment of the court is therefore 1. Judgment for the plaintiff for damages for non-economic loss in the sum of $300,000 plus interest, subject to either party seeking a different order as to interest upon delivery of this judgment or by filing as serving a written submission within 14 days, of $34,668.50. Judgment also for aggravated damages in the sum of $50,000, plus interest of $5,778.08, subject to either party seeking a different order as to interest upon delivery of this judgment or by filing as serving a written submission within 14 days. 2. Unless either party seeks a different order as to costs, either upon delivery of this judgment or by filing and serving a written submission within 14 days, the defendant pay the plaintiff's costs of this proceeding. I published my reasons together with a short summary of those reasons. Both documents.
So there's the judge's decision on that. And yeah, to me, if Carl said he's spent like $600,000 in his case so far, if Billy spent anywhere near that, Carl's going to have to pay him like $1 million Australian dollars. So here's just a couple meme tweets to wrap it up. The downfall of Karl Jobst as told by his own YouTube thumbnails. Huge fraud. Please don't sue me. They're suing everyone. I'm screwed. We got Comment Cop says, Karl Jobst falsely claimed Billy Mitchell caused a suicide. Never retracts the claim even after Billy publicly stated he intends to sue for it. Gets sued and pretends it's all about unrelated video game cheating allegations. Grifts $200K in donos from fans. Rat behavior. Okay, I think that's where I got the $200 in or whatever from. I don't think I've seen anything more concrete than that, but I feel like I remember hearing that elsewhere. Then Devil Lord says, B. Karl Jobst. Friends start a harassment campaign against another speedrunner. Speedrunner eventually gets harassed into suicide. Defend friend despite him being named in the suicide note. Proceed to blame suicide on the god gamer Billy Mitchell. Realize how much of a cash cow this is for you. Become a professional hater and make thousands of dollars in videos just about Billy. Billy BTFOs you in court. Have to pay almost $1 million. Last 5 years of your life mean nothing. He just can't stop winning. I mean, really, that's the face of a winner right there. I was under the impression that this was about cheating, so I thought that Karl was going to win this easily, but it turns out no, that this guy, the god gamer himself, Billy Mitchell, wins again.